Hey everyone, today we're going to go through a demo on how to build a Java web app using Cloudant and one of the new Watson services called User Modeling, and it's going to be running on IBM Bluemix. And my name is Jeff Sloyer, and I'm going to be doing the demo today. I work at IBM as a developer evangelist for Bluemix, and if you have any comments or questions after this demo, please reach out to me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is jsloyer, or go to twitter.com/jsloyer. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So I want you to imagine for a moment that your name is Sarah and you work at a software development company. And you have an awesome employee named Charlie. And you'd love to have another employee like Charlie because he's so awesome and he's a rock star coder. So doing this now is kind of hard, and it's hard finding an exact match personality-wise and skill-wise. So this demo app So to do this, we're going to use a service from the newly released Watson API. If you remember back a couple years, Watson is the computer from IBM that beat Ken Jennings on Jeopardy. So this service is going to compare personality types and tell us the best match for Charlie. So to do this, all we have to do is start typing in the application. Let's say I want another dev named or like Charlie, and we're going to go ahead and click on Charlie's face. And we click on Charlie. And we can see his personality here. He's good at a couple skills, and he's also very open. And he has a great imagination. Now on the right-hand side, we can see Dwayne matches him 100%, and he's currently a dev at Dell. So this is the perfect guy we want to go after for Charlie's perfect match to have another duplicate of Charlie. If we expand this here on the right, we can see why he's matched together. So they have almost the exact same personality, and they have a lot of the same skills as well as Charlie. So this is our ideal candidate, and this makes my life a lot easier as a hiring manager. So back to the real world, and actually what we're going to be doing today, we're going to be creating this app to help Sarah, the hiring manager, or any hiring manager solve this issue of finding the right candidate using the user modeling service from Watson. And also this data is stored in a Cloudant database, which is IBM's NoSQL database that we recently acquired. So the first thing we're going to want to do to get coding is open up a web browser, and we need to make sure we have a Bluemix account. If you haven't already signed up with one, I'll show you how to sign up for one. It's really, really easy. If you already have one, that's great. So we're going to go to bluemix.net. We'll go ahead and type that in our web browser. In the top right-hand corner, you'll see two buttons, a sign up and a login. So if you don't have an account already, go ahead and click sign up, and the sign up process is free. This is all free. And then if you already have an account, go ahead and click login. Since I have an account already, I'm just going to go ahead and click login. Now I'll type in my username and password and click sign in. So what this came up as now is Bluemix. So this is our dashboard of what's in Bluemix, your currently apps running. So let's go to catalog to deploy our first app. And the catalog's in the top right there, top right center. So in this case, we're doing a Java web app. And there's a lot of other things in Bluemix as well. There's tons of other services. But in this case, we're going to use Liberty for Java. We'll come back to some of the other services later. So we go ahead and click on Liberty. Then we need to give our app a name. This name is very important. This name needs to be unique. And also this name is going to be the URL for our app. So you notice it'll be talent-manager-jeff-mybluemix.net. Remember this because we'll need this information later. We'll come back to this again as well. And again, all this is free. You're not going to be charged for anything. So then once we have all the information entered, we can go ahead and click on Create. Once we click on Create, it's going to go ahead and start spinning our app up for us. What it's doing behind the scenes is downloading some sample code that was already developed and then staging our application. What staging means is it's actually pulling down a bunch of binaries, mainly WebSphere Liberty, and then our source code and compile it together in basically a glorified zip file. And this takes a little bit of time, so we'll go ahead and pause it. Let this continue on. So our app is almost done staging, and now our app is up and running. It shows our app is up and running on the right-hand side, but if we want to make sure it's working, we can go ahead and click on the route there at the top, and it'll open up a new tab. And here we go, our example app is up and running. That was pretty easy, all about like 3 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and close it out. And then we come back to the Bluemix dashboard that we have here for our app we just deployed. So the next step is adding in a service to our application. The first one we're going to do is actually Cloudant, which is our database that we're going to be using, our NoSQL database. So to add that, we click on Catalog, and then choose Services on the left. And there's going to be a lot of things in this service list. Watson, we're going to go through these just to explain a couple of them. And some mobile stuff, and then some web application tools, and bunch of databases, Cloudant, Mongo Labs, Redis, just to name a few, MySQL also, and then some security, some big data things including Hadoop, and then a business analytics service. But in this case, we want Cloudant for our demo. So we're going to click on Cloudant. And when we click on it, it's going to bring open a new page that will allow us to bind this service to our app. So there's two ways of doing it. We're going through one way, then we're going to go through the other way a little bit later. So on the right-hand side, we're going to go ahead and choose our app. And I have a bunch more on my list that you're going to have. You'll probably only have one in your list, which is fine. So I'm going to scroll down and choose the app that I just created. Make sure you choose the app you just created. And it's going to give us a free Cloudant database as well. So what it's going to do is spin up a free Cloudant database for us underneath the covers and bind it to our app for us. So all we have to do is just click on Create. It'll just take a second to provision us our own private database in Cloudant. And it's going to ask for us to restart our application as well. Anytime you make a change to adding a new service to your app, you have to let your application restage, which basically means restart your application. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. That's no big deal. And our app is going to restart. So after a couple seconds or so, our application comes back up and it's restarted, and now we have Cloudant attached to our Java application. Now we want to add one more service to complete this application and demo. So we're going to click on Add a Service here. It's going to bring us back to that same page we were at earlier with the long list of a bunch of services. In this case, we're going to add Watson. There's a bunch of Watson services here. I encourage you to come back and look at them later. The first one is concept expansion. So take an idea and expand it upon on it. The next one is language identification. So figuring out what language something is based upon the text. Machine translation, translate something for you on the fly. Message resonance, will tell you if something will resonate with your audience. Question and answer, obviously answer questions about travel and HR and medical. Relationship extraction, determine the relationships between people. And then finally, user modeling is the one we're going to use here, which determines the personality traits between people. So again, we click on it, and then it's already bound to our app here, so all we have to do is click Create. And it'll go ahead and create Watson for us. And again, we have to say, yes, go ahead and restart our app again. That's no big deal. That's fine. And go ahead and click OK. It's going to go ahead and then restart our app for us. So after waiting a little bit, our app is going to be restarted, and all of a sudden our app is now going to be ready for us to add in code. So as you can see, the app is ready to go, and we can see it's working there. That's great. It's all up and running. The next step is actually to add in the starter code to our application. So we're going to do this through cloning the starter code from a GitHub project that's already out there that I've set up for you. So to do this, we're going to open up a new tab, and we're going to go to ibm.biz/talent-manager. And I'll leave this up on the screen for a second so you can copy it. So go ahead and go to that site. It'll take us to a GitHub page. And we'll just go ahead and click on download zip on the right-hand side. You're more than welcome to use Git if you want to download it, but just go ahead and click on download zip for now. This is the easiest. It'll take a little bit to download. And once it downloads, we'll just go ahead and open that zip file and extract it. And you want to navigate to where that zip file extracted. On Mac, it's in downloads. On Windows, it'll be in your downloads directory under C users, your username, then downloads. So we're going to want to go ahead and open up Eclipse, and as a prereq for this, you need to have Eclipse Java 1.7 installed and Eclipse EE installed. So if you don't have that installed right now, go ahead and stop and pause this video and go ahead and take care of those prerequisites. Over in the left-hand side, we want to right-click and click Import, and we're going to go to General and choose existing projects in the workspace. We're going to browse to where our source code is that we downloaded. For me, it was in Downloads, Talent Manager-Master, Persona Fusion, and that's just the name of the app. So you want to go inside that directory and then click Open. And if everything worked right, it's going to show Persona Fusion there, and we just click Finish. So now it's going to start compiling the code, and if everything goes well, there should not be any red X's up there. If there's a red X, that means there's something wrong with Java, or Eclipse had issues validating the CSS or JavaScript. If anything's underneath the web content folder, it has red X's on it. So if you go up to the top and go to the source, all the source code's in there, and we're going to go ahead and start with the Cloudant piece that we need to modify to get this app working. So the Cloudant piece is underneath Persona Fusion DB, and that's where we're going to really start with this work. So we're going to pause really quick here and kind of go through an example, the difference between Cloudant, which is a NoSQL database, and a traditional relational database. So I'm just going to pull up a quick picture from Google. I like showing people, explain the differences between a relational database and a NoSQL database. So I'm just going to Google Images and type in NoSQL versus relational, and always use the same image. So the biggest difference is relational is here on the right. So if you notice, this is address information, and there's two tables, and anytime you pull the address info, you have to do a join between those two tables to get the full record of that person. But on the left-hand side, which is a NoSQL database, you don't have to do that. You can store one giant JSON object with all of the data in there, and you can pull that out very, very easily. And this is great for certain applications, and in this case, this is perfect for what we want to do. It really makes, you don't have to do database migrations anymore, or schema migrations. It makes your life a lot easier as an application developer. So if you remember back at the beginning, we created an empty database, but now we need to put some data in that database. And we can go ahead and do that through Bluemix. So if we go back to our Bluemix dashboard and click on Cloudant, it'll bring up a window, and we just click on Launch. And that'll do a single sign-on to our account with Cloudant that has been automatically provisioned just for us. I'm going to control click it, so it'll open up a new window, or a new tab at least. So as you see, we're automatically signed into Cloudant, which is awesome, and there's no databases created, which makes sense since this is a brand new account. So we click on Add New Database up in the top right. Go ahead and name this Talent-Manager. You're more than welcome to name it anything else, but if you name anything else, just remember the name of this for later in the demo. Then go ahead and click on OK. So now we need to populate some data inside this database. To do that, we're going to click on Replication on the left. Replication is basically, this means copying. It's a CouchDB term, and Cloudant is based upon CouchDB, so it's just the term that CouchDB uses. So to explain what's going to happen, you're going to copy some pre-existing from a database I have to your brand new database right here. And the way that's done is we can click on Remote Database there on the right. And you need to type this URL in exactly. If you don't, it's not going to work. And so be very, very careful. And I'll leave this up on the screen for a little bit. https://jslawyer.cloudant.com/talent manager. And I'll leave that on the screen for a second to make sure you can copy in. And down there in the bottom, click existing database and type in talent-manager. And then click replicate. It's going to come up with a panel asking us for our Cloudant password. Obviously, we don't know that because we didn't create this service. So to get that password, go back to Bluemix and click on Overview on the left to go back to our app. Then click on Show Credentials there in the middle on Cloudant NoSQL DB. It's going to show this long Gorpy password. All we have to do is double-click that long Gorpy password, and on a Mac, Command-C, or on Windows, Control-C, and copy that. Then we go back to our Cloudant tab and paste that long Gorpy password in. Then click Continue. And there it's going to show some internal couch stuff. It's saying what URLs it's copying to and from. And underneath the covers, it's doing a bunch of API calls for you. So nothing really too fancy. And to check the status of it, you click on Databases on the left. Then we can see there's records populating in our new database. Once it's done, it should have 117 records. If it doesn't, go back and make sure you copy the URL I provided earlier in the remote database exactly. If you don't, it's not going to work. Just make sure you're very, very careful typing the right URL. So if we click on the database, we can go see all the data inside the database. If you remember from earlier, we have just a JSON document, which is just a hash in JavaScript. It stores all this data by certain keys. And in this case, we're storing by names, which are our keys. And you can kind of scroll through this and read through some of the data if you want. But you really don't need to do that. You can go ahead and leave that alone. So next comes the fun nitty-gritty. We get to add the code to connect our Java app to Cloudant. And I kind of left this out on purpose so we can kind of go through what's going on here. So we're going to add in some code here. I'm just going to paste it in, and then we'll go through what it's doing. So the first line, it says, let's get, so I'm just going to go ahead and resolve these issues really quick, and just create some variables up here. These variables, you should note, are static, so they won't be modified anymore. And we're just going to set them as global, so other methods in this class can access them. Okay, that's great. So next, we'll actually go through what the code's doing. So the first line of code, Cloud Foundry stores environment variables as OS system environment variables. And the services stuff is stored in an environment variable called vcap services. And it's basically just a JSON string inside that. So we have to parse that JSON string into something that we can actually get meaningful data out of. So the next line, we actually go ahead and parse that string and turn that into a JSON object. Inside of that, we're going to get a JSON array called Cloudant NoSQL DB. Then the next line, we're going to go ahead and grab the first instance of an object in that array, and then the last one, we're going to get a JSON object called credentials. And there's three pieces of information we need to fill in: the host, the username, and the password. So we're just going to cast it to a string and say, get me the JSON object value called host. And we're going basically the same thing for username, and we're going to just get the value called username. And finally, we're going to get another value called password. And lastly, we just need to go ahead and finish up our try-catch block, which will take just paste in a couple lines of code to catch an exception. Then we can go ahead and save that. If you notice, there's still one last piece of information that we need to fill in. We need to fill in the database name. So this is why I told you to remember the database name earlier. We need this information. If you use Talent Manager, you're in luck. It's actually really easy. But if you didn't, it's still really easy too. So we're going to go ahead and open up the config.java class. And to do this, we go up to the source folder on the top left and click on the top level package and click on config.java. Double click on that. And there in the top, we're going to see a variable called Cloudant name. We're going to want to enter our database name. And again, if you use Talent Manager, just type in talent-manager. But if you use something else, go ahead and type that in too. Then go ahead and save that file. And you can close it out. And that basically completes our setup for Cloudant. We're done with that now. So we can go ahead and close that. Next, we're going to go ahead and set up Watson. To do this, all we have to do is go to source and then service, the service folder, and then click on Watson User Modeler. And the code is kind of going to be exact, almost verbatim for what we did for the Cloudant service. It's going to be really easy. So I'm going to paste in some code. And if you notice, almost everything is exactly the same, except we're getting a variable called user modeling this time instead of Cloudant. So again, I'm going to go ahead and create my global static variables that represent the JSON I'm trying to access. And again, just looking at this code again, it's basically an exact copy and paste what we did last time. And the only difference really is getting an object called user modeling this time instead of Cloudant. And again, we just get the first instance and then also another object called credentials. Then like last time for Cloudant, we need to go ahead and fetch a couple variables from the JSON object, and we're going to say, let's get the username, and we need to cast this to a string, like we did last time. Then we need to get the password, and we're going to cast this to a string also. Then lastly, we need to get the URL. So we're going to cast it to a string, and then get an object called URL. Then we can go ahead and save that, and if everything compiles, everything should be happy and pretty ready to go. So all of our code's basically ready to be deployed. So the next step, we need to install the Cloud Foundry CLI. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and open up a new browser tab and go to ibm.biz/hackathon-cf. I'll leave this on the screen for a second. This will take us to some instructions on how to install the Cloud Foundry CLI. So if we click on that link there in the middle that says Cloud Foundry CLI, it'll take us to a GitHub page, and we're going to scroll down a little ways. It's going to have a bunch of different installers for a bunch of different platforms. So you're going to want to go ahead and download the installer for your platform and then run the executable for it. If you're running Mac, you can actually use brew to install the CLI as well. Then once we get that installed, we can go back to the docs, and then we need to go ahead and connect our CLI to Bluemix. You can walk through this through the docs, or I'll go through it now. So we're going to type cf login-a https://api.ng.bluemix.net. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can read it. We're going to go ahead and hit enter then. We can type in our IBM username and password that we created when we signed up for Bluemix. And we type in our password. And it'll go ahead and log us into Cloud Foundry. Then you don't have to worry about this. This won't come up for you. This is just something I have. So we're basically logged in. It says everything's ready to go, which is awesome. So there's a couple important files that we just want to go ahead and check out in this directory to just to explain what's going on in here. So to get to these important files, we need the CD to where the application is. For me, it was downloads, talent manager, master, and then there's this Persona Fusion folder. We want to go in that also. So there's these two files I was talking about that are in here. It's manifest.yaml, webstarterapp.war. This is our war file, and also manifest.yaml is a Cloud Foundry specific file that describes our application. These are very, very important, and we're going to go ahead and open up manifest.yaml here in a little bit and go ahead and edit the file and customize it so we're ready to deploy our app. So we're going to go ahead and go back to Eclipse and open up that manifest.yaml file. And we can just drag that over to the right. So two important pieces of information, host and name. We need to change these or the deployment's not going to work. These have to be unique, and this is the information we set up earlier, the name of our app we chose earlier. So to get this information, we're going to go back to Bluemix. We're going to go back to our browser and go back to the Bluemix dashboard. And up here at the top, it's just the name of our application. And it's also this route. And hopefully these are both the same. If they're not, you can go ahead and copy the unique values for them. So we're going to go ahead and copy that and go back to Eclipse and paste in that name of the app and the name of the URL. We'll go ahead and save that file. Okay, everything's almost ready. We can go ahead and close that file now, and we're going to open up our build XML where it's ready to build our war file with all of our customized Java code. So we're going to go over to the right and right-click Build and go Run As Ant Build. So it's going to use Ant to compile our war file, and now we have our war file. So next we're going to want to switch back to our command prompt, our terminal. So we're going to go back to there. Now we're ready to push your app. The most exciting part of this whole demo, we can finally do it now. So it's really easy to do this. There's only one command you have to do to push your app. All you have to do is type in cf push. And you just have to make sure you're in the right directory. So we want to make sure we're in that Persona Fusion directory. And it should have the war file, that manifest.yaml file. So all we have to do again is just type in cf push and hit enter. It's going to go ahead and start uploading our app to Bluemix. It's going to take this war file, expand this war file, and upload it for us. So it's just going to take a little bit here to upload our war file. Again, this is dependent upon your internet connection. So earlier, anytime we made a change to our app, it would have to stop and restart it. So it's doing the same thing again. So it's going to start up our app, and it's going to spit out a bunch of information. This time we get to see what it's doing. So it's going to start downloading our code, and then it's going to pull down Java 1.7, and then also pull down WebSphere Liberty. Then it's starting to compile all this to get stuff together in basically one giant zip file. It's going to take a little bit to do this. So then it creates something called a droplet. This is basically a glorified zip file that has your app code in it and then also your runtime. It could be Java, it could be Node, it could be Python, Ruby, almost anything, or PHP, or just something simple like Nginx. So it's done creating the droplet, so it's going to start trying to start our app right now. So this takes a little bit with Java. It just has to expand things and then start the class path. Then it says everything's up and running. So if you look down there in the bottom, it says a URL for our application, so we can go ahead and copy that. We're going to switch back to our browser. We're going to paste in that URL and then go to it. So again, with Java, it's just compiling some things and pulling in some things in the first load. This is just a Java thing, really. Let's take a second to load. Then the app comes up. Everything's working. That was pretty simple. What'd that take? Maybe like 20 minutes? So we can type in, like we did earlier, I want another dev like Charlie. This is just to prove it works. And it'll bring up Charlie. And then over on the right, it'll bring down, again, all the people are similar to Charlie. what I had in the beginning, it's now working. You can do it yourself. So now we're just going to do a quick little walkthrough of the app, kind of how the data gets back from Watson and how things work. So we're going to go inspect the page and then switch to the network tab just to see the resources that are coming back from our backend that we created. So we're going to go ahead and filter on this for API. I just know what we're looking for, so we're going to type in /API in the filter on there on the left. And we're going to want the one that says search. And these are the results that come directly back from Watson. So we'll go ahead and click on that and click on response, and this is all the JSON that comes back from Watson, all the personality traits for that particular user. And we can see them all here, the full JSON. If you wanted to copy this out and put it somewhere else, like jsonlint.com, to see it in a little easier syntax, you can more than easily do that. And this is really cool. It's completely transparent, and you can actually see what the app's doing. And feel free to start modifying this and start doing more cool things with it. Well, that about rounds out the whole demo and workshop. So if you're interested in getting the source code to run through it yourself, the complete source code, go to ibm.biz/talent-manager-complete. If you have any questions or comments or feedback, hit me up on Twitter. My username is jsawyer, or go to twitter.com/jsawyer. Thanks so much for watching.